tried reading some of that book that I had gotten from the chaplain's cart, but Linton was not calming down at all. Please let me use the fucking phone so I can call and check on my dog that was left at the Airbnb when I got arrested. I stood up from my bed and I looked over the wall at her, and she had a mess in her space. There were like 20 books scattered across the nightstand and her table and even the bed with her. They weren't even her books. She had not made her bed, and she was laying on a bare mat with 3 blankets covering up her head as she was screaming. I lay back down and I started trying to read again for some more hope and for some time to pass by. And the quote that was in the book when I opened it up said, God surrounds us like the Pacific surrounds an ocean floor pebble. He is everywhere, above, below, and all sides. After reading this quote, I thought about my own moment when I had been standing over looking at the Pacific Ocean. It was 2 days before my arrest, and we had stopped at San Quentin, Mexico for a night at a hotel there. And there was a perfect view of the Pacific Ocean, and you could hear the sound of the waves crashing just outside the hotel. And I was experiencing a lot of nervousness in my stomach. So bad that we just kept having to pull over that day for me to go to the bathroom. I just thought it was me anticipating the fun time I was going to have when I got to LA and was going to go through some of my comical script on an open mic night stage. Anyway, so we walked down to the beach, and I was gathering sand dollars and blaring the song Oceans through my cell phone. And I took a lot of time alone looking at how big the ocean was, just right in front of me. And then I screamed out as loud as I could to God, why did you take Jason from me? Why did you take my granddad from me? Why did you allow this ex-girlfriend to attack me with vindictive behavior? I needed to forgive all this shit, but I cannot find my way. And the law and the charges and everything that was trying to come against me consumed my mind. And I just felt like I needed to get back to Georgia and take care of some things before I could travel anymore. I had no idea that my gut was sending me signals to warn me about what was ahead when I went to cross that border 2 days later. So I closed my book and I walked over close enough to the railing on the second tier so I could look down at the clock in the day room. Now Amy was packing up her things, and she whispered to me that she was leaving. And she said, I got accepted as a trustee to work while I'm here. And she said, good luck with everything. She said, maybe Georgia will pick you up soon. And I was just really sad to see her leave. You get like that in there. You form a relationship with some of the women, and then either they get released, or they're moved to a different dorm, or they're moved to a different place where they can work while doing time. And I was learning that we really only have people in our lives for a little while. It's never forever. At some point, we're going to be left by them, or they're going to die, or we're going to have to leave them. Amy was gone, and Linton was still next to me yelling, and I was trapped on lockdown. So I got my Bible out and I began to read some more scriptures. And my Bible from that chaplain's office again was slowly cultivating the truth about who God was within my soul. And later on, it was time for me to receive my first a commissary purchase. I've been locked up for a week and a half now, only eating 3 disgusting gel meals a day. And you had to wait on your last name to be called, and then you went down and met this man. He had a cart with everybody's stuff in these brown paper sacks, and that was folded down and stapled with your name on it. And what I noticed were the inmates that couldn't afford to make extra purchases would watch and look at the size of the bags of the people who could and see if they could ask them for snacks later. So anyway, it was like weeks. I walked down to the bottom tier to the day room area where the man in the cart was, and I was able to take my brown paper sack, and when I returned to my cubby, I tore the paper sack loose, and I pulled out some wheat thins, some tuna packs, barbecue sauce, mayonnaise packs, some banana chips, my Dove soap that I was so excited about getting to use some soap and eating some food. Around 9 p.m., I took out my tuna pack, and I had saved and hid a piece of white bread from lunch. And I took the mayonnaise packet, and I just started making me a sandwich. And as soon as I got a sense of the smell of the tuna, I had another memory. I walked into the side door at my grandparents', and my grandmother was in the kitchen with white bread on a paper plate, and she was scooping homemade tuna salad from a mixing bowl and spreading it across the slice of bread. And she said, "Britt, come in here now and make you a tuna sandwich." After that, she'd lay another slice of bread on top, and then she would cut the sandwich in butterfly triangles. And then she'd add some plain Lay's potato chips to her plate, and I would go over to the cabinets and take down a paper plate, and I'd start making me a sandwich so I could go in there and sit next to my grandmother and watch TV. I was starving, but I had to cry at the thought of that tuna sandwich. And then it was nurturing my spirit the way my grandmother always did. And that was one thing. She always made sure you had something to eat when you were there. I kneeled down, and I placed my head on that small mat where I slept, and I just cried out, "I miss you. Please help me. I am so sorry that this ex-girlfriend lied to you." And I said, "Please help me, Grandmom." Just hoping that some way or somehow she could pick that up on a soul level. I raised up, I wiped my eyes with that 3/4 sleeve sweatshirt, and then I sat down in my chair at the desk and I ate my sandwich. I was still thinking about my grandmother and my family, while looking around at most of the women pacing in their space. I was feeling grateful about having a little more food than what I had since I was booked in jail. My day spent in court the week before about killed me. And I just remember, when I had to return to that holding cell and I was hungry and I was just starving. And then there was that food on my desk and it had been sitting there for hours. And so it was cold. And if you've ever fed a wild animal or a starving dog, you can picture the way I scarfed down each bite, because I knew it would be almost 12 hours later before I would get to eat again. And I was just too hungry that time to save anything for later. So that night, after the lights went out, I could hear one of the women next to me crunching on Cheetos. And it was in that moment I was frustrated, and I thought about it being a story to tell, to make my son laugh so he wouldn't worry too much about me being locked up. After hearing her taking several bites, I did my usual and I used my sweatshirt as a barrier to keep the noise out of my ears as much as possible so I could sleep. And I just laid there thinking about my plans of traveling and being a healer, and it had all failed. And I didn't know why.